Hello, thank you for joining me today. I'm Jan Clothier of Thinking Stamping and I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator based in New Zealand. And today I thought I'd share with you how I made this card, which I made for the latest challenge at Colour Inspiration where I'm a crew member, and the colours that we had to work with this week were Basic Black, Cajun Craze, Pebbled Path and Daffodil Delight. Now, this got me thinking about masculine cards because I know a lot of people find masculine cards quite tricky. And for me, making a masculine card comes down to three things: choice of colour, choice of set, and choices around embellishments. So I hope that as we talk about this card, those things will be demonstrated. It's a nice, quick, easy card, and it's got a little bit of a wow factor as well because of the DSP and the layering. So it's a nice one to do even if you do it with a different set. However, we'll talk about this one. What do you need to make it? Well, obviously you need this set, which when I was talking about masculine cards, choice of set, I think this is a nice set for men. It's a nice set for teenagers. Of course, it's also a nice set for women who love to scooter or ride bikes or whatever. But I guess unlike flowers, which have a very feminine connotation, this set includes masculine as well quite readily. So it's got this lovely set of stamps, and it comes with a little bundle of dies which help you make this lovely little bike. So we'll have a wee play with that. As always, if you see something that I use today and you would love to have it in your craft stash and you live in New Zealand, please shop with me. There's a link to my online store in the video description below, and you can also get to my shop through the things which are going to pop up in the social media card at the end of this video. So we'll crack on with what you need. So we've talked about this. You need the set, the bundle, Fun on Wheels, and always a bundle cheaper, 10% cheaper than buying each of the items separately. So if you're thinking of getting it, get it as a bundle. What have I used in terms of card? Well, I started off with a basic black card base, and it's a standard card base for me. So it's half of an A4 piece of paper, so it's 21 centimetres that way, scored at 10.5, and I've cut it at 14.8. Now, if you are not a metrics person but an imperial person, then just use whatever your standard card size base is. And when I say, it's 5 millimetres less or half a centimetre less, that's roughly 1/4 of an inch. So, just adjust as you normally would. Okay, so a basic card base. I've got a mat of Cajun Craze, and it is half a centimetre or 5 millimetres smaller than the card front. So it's 10 centimetres that way and 14.3 that way, and it's going to end up there. Now I've got a piece of DSP, which comes from the 2023 to 2025 In Colour Designer Series paper stack. So for the In Colours, you get 4 sheets of 2 different designs for each colour. So you get 40 sheets of paper. There's one for every colour family, and there are 4 designs. As you can see, there's the stripe, the spots, there's this. And on the other side of this paper, there's a heart one. So you can see that instantly by swapping over the paper, I could feminize this card straight away. I'm not going to do that. So that goes there, and say it's half a centimetre smaller than the Cajun Craze base. So it is 9.5 by 13.8 that way. For the inside of my card, I've got a mat of Daffodil Delight, so that is 10 by 14.3, and then I've got a piece of white, that is half a centimetre smaller, so 13.8 by 9.5. That's for the inside of my card, so I'm just going to pop that over there because we don't need it just at the moment. And you need some other bits and pieces to make all of the rest of the card. So you need a piece of basic white in order to cut out that wee circle. Now that circle comes from Stylish Shapes. It's the largest of the Stylish Shapes dies. And what I like about the Stylish, well, many things I like about the Stylish Shapes dies, but one of them is that you get stitching both sides of the line, and it's a good size. So there you go. So you need a piece of basic white big enough for that. Now I've got a piece of black where I have white embossed the sentiment. So I have used, white embossing powder. I've used this sentiment here, sorry. It's good. It's a good day to have a good day. Obviously you could use anything, look at you go. You could get a happy birthday or whatever from another set, but I've white embossed it onto black. Now we are going to come back to this that piece because there's something special that I've had to do to it. I've also got a wee scrap of Cajun Craze and Daffodil Delight, and again I've got my stylish shapes, and I've used this banner here to cut them out with. It's also what I cut this out with, but you'll see that it barely fits. So you could do it like that, but I thought it looked a little bit mean, so I have extended it when I've cut it, and I'm going to show you how to do that just in case that's a little trick you've never done before. So that's coming up shortly. The other thing you need, of course, is to make the wee bike. Now, the dies from Fun on Wheels, the dies pieces that you need for this are that little bit, which I've cut out of Cajun Craze. And there it is, all pressed out. And of course, it helpfully comes with 2 wheels, and I've cut those out of basic black. So that's all the stuff that we need. And so really, as I said at the beginning, this is a very quick, very stylish, masculine, suitable card. So let's just crack on to putting it together. Well, I'm going to start with the bike because the trickiest bit, and really on the tricky scale it wasn't very tricky at all, was attaching the wheels, because the wheels just, you know, you want the wheels to fit nicely under the mud guards, don't you? So you've got to kind of work out where they're going to go. So, because the wheels are not completely, they're not completely round. I think there's a little hint of oval on them. So I'm going to attempt to do the wheels first. And I'm just going to put a little dab of glue on each of these little bits. And then I'm going to attempt to line them up so that they look good. So I'll just give that a press, because I think that works. And now, can I get the rear wheel lined up nicely? We shall see. Whoops. Because you can see there, it's really not a round wheel, so you do have to sort of think about just where it's going to go. Okay, I'm just going to give that a little press. I'm just going to pop that aside until I need it some more. Now, with this circle, what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to take this stamp here, which is of various road maps, and I'm going to stamp it in Daffodil Delight onto this circle. Because, you know, after all, this card was for a colour challenge, and there are 4 colours in here. Cajun Craze, Pebbled Path, Daffodil Delight, and Basic Black. So I'm just going to randomly stamp over my circle, because it's not really going to matter if they overlap at all in any way. It's just a bit of coverage, a bit of detail. And coming back to my original point about masculine cards, colour choice has quite a lot to do about, I suppose, masculinizing a card. I tend to go for earthy colours for male cards, but of course Daffodil Delight isn't really an earthy colour. You know, you can have pops of brightness. Just because you've gone for an earthy colour palette doesn't mean it has to be dull. Okay, so here we go. Quick card. We're going to, as I say, instant feminization, make it hearts. Not going to do that today. So we shall give a little bit of glue around the edge of that Designer Series paper. Line it up onto the mat. Glue, of course, gives you the infamous wiggle room to straighten it up if you haven't quite got it in the right spot. Give it a nice little press now that I'm happy with it. Okay, and now I'm going to attach that to my basic black base. Okay, don't need heaps of glue, you know. You don't want it oozing out. Okay, so here we go. So now we've got a nice base going on. Righty-okey, next is going to be attaching my little road map circle. So, a bit of glue and pop it on. So this is a layout that I favour too, sort of having something off to the side rather than central. You could centralise it if you wanted, and if you really wanted to, you could have popped that up on dimensionals. Okay, so now my bike is going to eventually go there, and my various labels and things are going to go there. Now, how to stretch out this sentiment? Well, what you have to do, and you have to bear in mind too, that when you're card making, like, nothing is 100% guaranteed successful. But the way that you go about it is you go, okay, I could just do that, but I think that's going to look a bit mean and a bit tight. So I want a bit of length at the end. So when I put it in my die cutting machine, I'm going to put it like that. So let's just see how that works on camera. Oops, I think we might have a bit of shade happening, and that's unfortunate. It's a very dull day here. It's raining. It's a rainy, wintry day. Right, but what I really want you to see is that when I put because I don't want to cut the end, when I put the top plate on, I'm only putting the top plate on as much as I want it to cut out. So I'm only going to cut to there, and this end tail is not going to cut out. So we'll wind it through, and we'll see whether that's in fact what happened. That's what should have happened. Okay. So now, when I lift that off, you can see it's cut a flap like that. So I'm now going to turn it around, and I'm going to line up the die where I want it. Now, because this is a stitched die, you will feel it lock in. It's locked in tight there. It is not going to move. So I am now going to when I put the plate on here, I'm only going to put it over the bit I want it to cut. I don't want it to cut all over this thing that I've already cut again. I only want it to cut that in. So the top plate is only over that back part of the die. And make it click. I'll move that off to the side where there's a bit more room. We'll come in here, lift it off, and now we have a lovely longer extended piece. You can see the comparison in size. I've made it about 1 centimetre longer to give that little sentiment just a bit more room to breathe on the page. Okay. Right, so that's probably the thing which is going to take us the longest to do. Now, I could have mucked around and extended each of these, but remember, this card's supposed to be a quick card, and if I'd faffed around and extended each of those to be the same length as that, it would have taken me a bit longer. So what I decided to do was to simply layer them up and just have the top one go over the length of both of them. So you see, I'm going to line these up. To make a sort of one long dual banner, and then I'm going to put that one over the top of them. In fact, perhaps I might just need to make that just a shade longer. Okay, so I'll come over a little bit longer, and the stitches do make it quite handily helpful to line things up straight. And then you can pop on there. Right, happy with that. And I'm going to just use my grid paper here, line up on my grid paper just to help me make sure I get it lined up how I want. Yep, and I've got just a little tag of colour at each end and the two colours popped in underneath. So you see that's going to go there. Now, my little bike, here's a fiddly little piece of die cutting, so I'm going to use my my silicone mat, a little squirt of glue, an old piece of sponge, and I'm just going to hold it so it doesn't move, and I'm just going to dab the glue onto my bike, and I'm going to pick it up with my tweezers so I don't get gluey fingers. All right, I'll minimise my chance of gluey fingers. And I'm just going to pop my bike on there and pat it down. And now I can just add in the final bit of the sentiment. I'll just have a bit of, have a bit of glue on him. Now, again, lining up with my grid paper. And let's just give that a press, and then a press to make sure it sticks on. Now, the last thing I said, you know, if I'm making a masculine card, the things I think about are the choice of my set and my colour choices, and also what embellishments I am or am not going to use. So if I'm doing for a man, I'm probably not going to include ribbons or bows, perhaps a little bit of twine, but nothing more than that. I think I am going to add in some of these 2023 to 2025 in colour dots. They've got a little bit of shine to them, but while they're pretty, they're not so pretty that you wouldn't think a man might enjoy them. The colours that we had in our challenge were Cajun Craze, which is almost copper clay, so I could use that, or Daffodil Delight, so I could have possibly used the Wild Wheat. No, that would have worked. That also would have worked, but I think I'm going to stick with the Pebbled Path one. And I'm just going to pop that on. I'm going to pop one in there just to help occupy that space visually. And you know what I love about these dots is I do love the 1, 2, 3 sizes, the big, the medium, and the little. So I'm going to make full use of those. Pop them in there. And there we have it. The quick masculine card using basic black, Cajun Craze, Pebbled Path, and Daffodil Delight. And it does illustrate my 3 things about masculine cards: colour choice, set choice, and embellishment choice. Now, the only other thing I've got to show you is what's on the inside, and so I'm not going to do it right now, but you'll remember we put aside a mat of Daffodil Delight and a piece of white, and then I've just stamped in Cajun Craze that lovely bike image out of the set. Okay, well, I hope you've enjoyed that. If you have any questions, please feel free to get in contact with me, which you can do through the list of things which is under this video in the description, or through my Facebook page or blog, the details of which are going to pop up in a moment on the end card. I'm always happy to answer questions. If you haven't subscribed and you've liked what you've seen today, please do so you don't miss anything else I do. And if you live in New Zealand and you've seen anything today that I've used, please shop with me. There's a link to my online store in the video description below. But above all else, everyone, happy stamping.